So thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to join Jo and me this morning, or perhaps it's afternoon or evening. You guys are logging in from all over the world, which is always so, so cool. So today we're going to talk about how to simplify your life with LSP Expert. And I'm really excited to hear what she has to say as she discusses how she uses this tool. If you're new to Zoom, I just want to go over the controls really quickly. In case you haven't found it already, this is the question and chat bar. If you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, do use that chat located right there with the red box. You've been using it already if you were on here a little bit early. I'm going to be manning it during the webinar for any attendee issues during the presentation. But if you do have a question about Jo's awesome presentation, please do use the Q&A feature. It is located here. We will have a Q&A after the presentation, so keep in mind that we are going to open that box and look through those questions at the end. We want to make sure that Jo gets through her material first, okay? So you can enter your question at any time, but we will be opening it at the end. And before I hand the presentation over to her, in case you are new to SuccessFactors, this is SuccessFactors platform and have no idea who I am Janae Spry, that's me. I've been a French into English translator specializing in biotech and pharma for well over a decade. I've been coaching freelancers for over 5 years, and I also run SuccessFactors.com, which is dedicated to helping translators and interpreters, freelancers just like you guys, achieve success, whether that's improving productivity, getting more or different work, improving workflow, organization, systems, all that good stuff. And in that capacity, I am super excited to be able to host free webinars like this one for you guys, because I think Jo's presentation is going to be really good for those of you looking to simplify and streamline workflow and that kind of thing. So really excited to hear what she has to say. If you're not familiar with Jo, she is a freelance copywriter and translator. She provides content solutions for entrepreneurs. She helps them be their best selves in an overwhelming online world. So from ready-made templates to translating marketing campaigns, Jo is all about the words. And if you look at the landing page, you can connect with her on Instagram, and I will include her Instagram direct link in the follow-up email. And with that, Jo, are you online?
I am indeed.
Awesome. So I will hand the presentation over to Jo, and she can get going.
Okay. So I just wanted to swap. Can everybody see my my screen? Hopefully that's fine. So I want to take you through today how I use LSP Expert to simplify my business. So let me just take this because you can probably see this too. So I thought the best thing for me to do was actually start a little bit of an introduction as to where my business is, where I started out versus where I am now, the types of projects that I do as well, I guess, to give you a little bit of context on that. And I'm just realizing that my screen isn't really sharing that well for you, so forgive me that I'm going to have to swap between the slides a little bit. But yes, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jo Rourke, and I've been a translator since 2003. I've been, when I was in university, like so many of you, I got involved in the, am I sharing my screen again? Yeah. I got involved in translation for various university schools, and that's where I started getting into helping people with the various challenges that they have. It wasn't really until 2012 that I went full-time with translation, and I decided to do that because at that point our eldest daughter was born, and it really seemed like a good time for me to take the leap and do what I had wanted to do for a very long time. Some personal stuff: I'm a mum to 3 kids, a wife to 1 cyclist, and I'm a word geek, just exactly like you are, I would imagine. To give some context to the way that I work and the types of projects that I do, I guess later on, to help you understand the way that I work with LSP and why it helps me, is I work in translation and in copywriting. I have various types of streams within the business. For example, I also do social media writing, social media management, and again, combining that always with a slight marketing flair to it. So it could be transcreation of marketing campaigns, localizations of websites. It always has that slight marketing strand running through it. Because of that, I wondered really whether or not LSP Expert would be the right tool for me. So I thought I would also give some context on how I found out about LSP Expert and why I decided that it was the tool for me to use. So I'm sure some of you have encountered a lot of the reviews and articles that have been online about the tool. Emmeline Jamoul, who is a translator friend of mine, wrote for the Open Mic about how it had really revolutionized her business. Another colleague of mine, Eva, she had extolled its virtues to me as well. So I decided that it was something that I wanted to try and to see if it would work. I've been using it now for about a year, and I'll get into the ways that I use it as well to show you that my hesitations at the beginning were because I didn't just do translation. I wondered if it could really grow with my business the way I wanted it to. So that was my initial, I wasn't so sure of. So let me just try and see if I can get up another one of these slides, because this is very frustrating for me. Okay, so I think you're still on my first slide. Can anyone just check in with me whether or not we can see my slides, because I'm having a problem with
just your first slide, but sometimes if you just unshare, so like go to new share and choose like whiteboard or something like that, and then reshare the screen, it might fix it. There we go.
Yay! I'm so sorry. I actually use Zoom quite a lot, and for some reason, I think it's maybe my new computer is throwing a little bit of a tantrum for me. So that's always helpful.
I do see your desktop now, though.
I'm such a pro. 1 second. Let's see if we've got.
That's really pretty desktop, though.
Thank you. So here we go. Yeah, translation, transcreation, copywriting. I also teach. I lecture at university. I do content writing, social media, editing, proofreading. And really, I thought, could the tool actually handle all of this? I guess my preconception at the beginning was that it was just for translation, and that was it. And I didn't really know if that's all that I wanted to do. So I'm going to go ahead and try to share again. So here we go. And my next slide takes you through. What I want to do now is talk about the systems that I was using before. So I wanted to show you all of the ways that I was trying to organize everything. I had Excel sheets. I had a CRM system. I used the HubSpot CRM system. I used various labels within my inbox. I'm quite obsessed with having inbox 0. So I have various tags in my inbox to be able to allow me to categorize my emails for what I need to respond to, what I'm still waiting for a response on, what I need to write, edit, or translate at any one time, what I have delegated. And I still use that system, and I find it really, really helpful. So that's something that I do still use. But the Excel spreadsheets, the CRM system, and also the separate accounting software that I was using, I used variously Xero and Cashflow, and I did find them helpful, but I really missed not having something all in one place. I found that I had so many different tools that I needed to keep track of. I had so many different systems. I was cross-referencing everything. I was getting stressed about the different project deadlines and the workload that I had. And I don't know if anyone else has experienced this as well, but it was the stress of not knowing whether I could actually accept new work, or whether I just couldn't take it on. I didn't feel like I had a clear view and visibility about every project. I didn't feel like I knew what was going on, what stage it was. And also that cross-referencing of details. So whether or not it was when I had a new job and I was cross-referencing all of the client's contact details to any documents that I was sending to them, or when it came to invoicing, when I was transferring all of the information over, for example, with capital analyses or any discounts that have been applied, or any information that I needed to transfer. I felt like I had so many spreadsheets or scraps of paper on my desk or to-do lists, and I didn't have a view on how my business was performing. Also, I'm just going to confess here that I absolutely hated and still don't particularly like invoicing. I find it really, really stressful. I find it kind of embarrassing and kind of, I don't know, I really don't like it. As some of you may know, I'm a bit of a templates geek, so that helps me. But I also I wished I had a layer of distance between me and the invoicing, and also I wished that it was easier, because I did feel that if it were easier, I would get along with it better. I was always the person who was either invoicing late, which sounds like clients wouldn't mind that, but actually a lot of clients really, really hate that. That doesn't work for them because they have their own billing cycles. Or I was invoicing at the last minute at the end of the month, and I just found it was a huge stress for me. In addition to that, my Excel skills were pretty basic, and I'm being very, very kind. I could just about do a sum, on one column. I could maybe alphabetize something if I was really pushed, but that was probably a stretch. So I just felt that everything was all over the place, and that really unsettled me, and it made me feel like I wasn't on top of things, which I absolutely hate. So then I heard about LSP, and I was very tempted, but I have to say that I still had my reservations. I wasn't sure whether or not it would be for me. But obviously Lsp Expert came along and saved the day for me. And I still wondered if it would be okay because I wondered whether or not it would grow with me as I developed the business in the direction that I wanted to go into. Again, as I said, I do a lot of other services. Could it cope with those services? Would it help me with my expenses? I haven't really touched on my expenses and the pain that my expenses caused me, but that was something else that I really, really wondered if it would be able to handle it for me. So let me just move on to this next slide here. So, quick question, what do I actually use? What do I use Lsp Expert for? Well, the answer to that question is actually now I use Lsp Expert for the majority of my business. Earlier on, I shared that slide with you as to the different systems that I had, all of the Excel spreadsheets, the CRM system, the accounting software. I had tried various ones to see what I would get along with, and I use Lsp Expert for all of those things now. There are still things that I do separately. I always want to provide an open and honest opinion on something, so I still am obsessive about organizing my inbox, and I also quote. I don't use the quoting function on Lsp Expert, but that's more to do with the fact that the types of clients that I work with expect slightly different types of quotes. So I always really go to town on Canva and produce something a little bit special. But let's go into all of the different ways that I use it. So I'm just going to go on very professionally again to my new slide. I'll share that again. And so settle down and have your cup of tea because this is how I use it to really simplify and streamline my business. So tracking jobs on LSP is one of the main, actually anything about jobs on LSP I find absolutely wonderful. It allows me that visibility I've mentioned, but also what I really liked is how much you can do from the job entry itself. Like I mentioned, I hate that cross-referencing and trying to get everything together in one place, and that was very frustrating to me before. What I like is being able to add a job, and from that job I can also add a client, I can add all of their services, and I can do that within one place. Again, something that I find like pulling my hair out is when you have a tool and then you realize when you're halfway through a task that you have to complete something else in order to do the original job. So if you're anything like me, you have multiple tabs open while you try to trick the system into thinking that you've already entered that information. What I liked about the job entry in Lsp Expert is that you can actually add all of these additional details right from that job. So you can build out the picture of not just the job, but the client and the entire relationship that you have with them right from the job. You can invoice from the job, you can send a partial invoice, a quote. As I mentioned, I don't yet use that functionality, but again, it's so useful, and it's great to be able to do it. What I wasn't expecting was being able to use it to track my marketing efforts as well. As I'm sure plenty of you are also doing, I have a marketing, strategy for my business. And what I wasn't expecting was that I would be able to track those efforts and record them through this tool. So again, within that client and job functionality of the tool, from that I record conversations that I've had with them, notes. It allows me to remind myself what I've already done with them and what I'm planning to do in the future. So that was something that was unexpected, but it's been great, and that's the reason why I then stopped using the CRM tool that I had been using before I'd signed up. Invoicing, it's probably one of my favorite parts of it. And you can see a little further down on my last point on this slide, it's that adding the layer of distance when invoicing. I'm sure a lot of you probably don't have this same mental block about it as I do, but I really struggled with being able to, directly ask for money, because that's what it is. And I really struggled with that for a long time, and this definitely helped. Expenses entry. This is something that, again, I'm just thinking, I don't know how many times I've said in this webinar so far that I really struggle with something. So I sound like a complete mess, but I've always hated keeping track of my expenses. I find it difficult because I didn't have a central system for being able to do so. The software that I'd used before, the accounting software, still didn't make it that much easier. But I was really pleased to see the ways that I could enter my expenses on Lsp Expert. So again, you just access it from the accounting tab at the top, and you've got invoicing and you've got expenses there, and you click into that and immediately you can start to add your expenses. So you can upload receipts, and there are various ways that you can upload the receipts or invoices, anything that you've, for example, it could be one of the notifications from PayPal that you've paid something, and you can add them, I think, via Dropbox, Google Drive, a direct upload from your computer, and that was really helpful for me. And one of the best things I think about it is being able to categorize those expenses, and it gave me insight into where my money was going, where my business's money was going. Was it mostly to overheads like rent, or for example, I work at a co-working space. Was it that? Or was it more computer related or software? Was it memberships? Again, I said that I travel a lot for my the different things that I do, whether it's lecturing or giving training or presentations. Am I spending a lot of money on that? Or as my business started to grow, and you can see in the next entry there, outsourcing, was I spending a lot of money on paying my suppliers? So those were the sorts of things that it gave me a real insight into, and I can't tell you how delighted my accountant has been now that I actually have a system that he can make any sense of. So that's been really, really useful for me. And I think strangely, because I felt reassured that I had something or a tool that I could use like this, then I've become better and got into a better habit of doing it more regularly, so that it's not then this big pain in the ass every quarter or every 6 months, however long it is that you do your expenses. So I think it's sort of helped myself in a way. So that's been brilliant. Outsourcing is something that I only probably got into this in the last couple of years, and Lsp Expert it's great for being able to manage that. I can hold all of my suppliers' details, I can take note of their availability, I can have their rates for all of their different services. That's another thing that's really, really helpful, that you can actually have different services. For example, some of my suppliers do translation, they also do editing, they also do proofreading, they may do subtitling. So I can have their different rates in those different services, and it's easy for me to refer back to. And also feedback, not in some sort of a negative way, but more to remind myself about their style of working and what's gone particularly well. And then I can assign projects that I think that they would really enjoy and that we would have the best working relationship possible from it. Then reporting and accountability. This has been a bit of a game changer for me, if I'm honest. I always really wanted to be able to brag about reports that I did, and some in my earlier business, it was I guess something that I dabbled in, but I always came a cropper or ran into problems with my Excel spreadsheet skills. As I've mentioned before, they are lacking, to be kind. So they were all very simple reports that I was able to run. But with the tool, with Lsp Expert, it's been great because it does it for me. It has a variety of reports that you can run, and that has helped me enormously, from figuring out, like I said, where my expenses, expenditure, my most profitable services, my most profitable clients, being able to track my business's performance throughout the year. And what it's also really helped me with is, we're just coming out of summer, we're in September now, all parents on the line, breathe a collective sigh of relief. And the summer is traditionally, whether you have kids or not, it's often, it can be a quiet time in our industry. For some people, it can be really busy, but for a lot of translators that I know and a lot of other small business owners, it's a very quiet time. And the reporting functions that I now have at my fingertips mean that I can reassure myself that it does pass, it's cyclical, and I just need to get out the other side. And having that visibility again of, I can clearly see that the graph dips at certain points of the year, but then, positive hat on, it comes up again, and it's on a rise again, from September to the end of the year. And that definitely helps me not freak out so much in the summer. I'm not saying that I don't still freak out a bit when July and August hit, but it does remind me that these things do pass, and things will always get better. The next thing there that I've got is accountability. And again, this is something that's quite new to me, mostly because I've only recently started to work with a business mentor. And and also got involved in a business mastermind locally here in Northern Ireland. And using all of the different functions on Lsp Expert, right from the way I use it as a CRM to track my marketing efforts and to look at my invoicing, it's then allowed me to set more appropriate, relevant goals. So I can see, for example, I earned X amount in Q1 of the year. So I know that I want to earn an additional, let's say 10% in Q2. And maybe by the end of the year, I want to earn another percentage. Or I can set other more, I guess, less numerical goals and look at the types of clients and the types of services. If I want to drive it more towards my more profitable services, then that can be one of the goals that I'm held accountable for within my mastermind group. So I share the reports and that information, and then work together with my business mentor to create achievable but still quite scary challenges for me to undertake in the next 6 weeks, quarter, 6 months, 1 year, whatever the frequency you choose. And that has been something new for me and something very exciting, and something, if I'm very honest, that I was not expecting to come out of what I'll be, I guess it's going to sound weird, but what I thought was something that was just going to help me with admin. It's been a lot more than that. And that final one, again, was the layer of distance that I get when invoicing. That helps me a lot. So I'm going to do my very, very professional change of slide. So I'm going to go to this one next. I'm going to make it bigger. You can tell I have young children because I talk you through everything I do. So again, I mentioned that I use it as a marketing tool and for business planning, but what I didn't mention to you is that I use it as a kind of favorite client finder. The client section with Lsp Expert is pretty awesome because it allows you to record so much information. Like I said, you can record not record as in dodgy dictaphone. I mean, I can make a note of all of the conversations that I've had with clients to remind myself just little things like when I'm going to check in with them again about a project, or I'll make a note that they mentioned a big event that was, or a trade fair that they were going to be visiting in, let's say, January 2019. So I've made a note that in October, I'm going to get in contact with them to see whether or not we could talk about the translation or transcreation of their brochures, anything that they would want for the event, any information that they would need translated. So it reminds me of the things that I have coming up. But what it also does is I record other things there as well. So as well as the services that I do for them, the rates that they have for each of those, I also record things about the relationship that I have with them and my overall, I guess, rating of them as a client. For those of you who've maybe done some of the many challenges that I've done in the past, you'll know that I rate my clients on 4 areas. So relationship, reliability, remuneration, and reward. So again, I apply these factors, these 4 factors, to my clients that I record within Lsp Expert. And it really helps me because then I have a clear view on who are my bestest, most favorite clients. And then I use that to make profiles. So I then have client profiles of the people that I want to work with going forward. And that has been brilliant. It's all central. I don't have to rely on my terrible Excel spreadsheet skills. I have all of the information there for me. So that has been really helpful for me as well. And also it helps you for business planning. So analyzing your services, you can run reports to show you the profitability of the different services that you offer. So perhaps you're you're a translator, and you're an editor as well. And although in translation you may have the higher rates compared to editing, perhaps because of the nature of the translations that you do, you take so much time over them that it's actually less profitable when you divide it out. So it's little things like that it helps you with. Or for example, if you charge on a per project basis for some services and an hourly rate for others, it gives you some visibility on what that looks like, and it allows you to compare like for like. Because sometimes when we charge different, rates or units of measurement, whatever it is, for different clients or services, it's really hard to have an overview of actually what that means in terms of revenue and profit. I know profit is a bit of a bad word for many people, and it's something that a lot of people are a little bit frightened of, but it's something that I really wish that I had taken into consideration earlier in my career. Because when I started to switch to thinking about making my business profitable instead of just revenue generating, it made a massive shift in my perspective and my performance. So the next thing that I want to very smoothly slide on, was how has my use of the tool actually changed? So let's do a new share. And the main way that my business has changed is that it has grown slightly, as everybody's business grows over the year. So I started working with a VA, a virtual assistant. I think I'd had a few bad experiences working with virtual assistants in the past, so I was a little bit hesitant about starting a new VA relationship with someone, but I found an absolute gem. She is brilliant, and I then was able to move on to the team function, or the team plan within Lsp Expert. And my VA, Ellie, she uses Lsp Expert as a user, and she uses it to enter jobs. She tracks availability, both my availability and the availability of suppliers. She enters expenses. She creates and sends invoices. So it's because it's so intuitive, it was a very easy tool to hand over, joint ownership to my VA. It wasn't something, again, when I had worked with VAs in the past and tried to get them involved in some of my crazy, terrible systems and crumbled bits of paper, understandably, it didn't work very well. But with Lsp Expert being quite intuitive to use, then she was able to take to it really quickly. It helps that she's really smart. But then she is now able to do a lot of tasks and take things off my plate. And that is a massive stress reliever for me as well. Management of larger, that should be projects, with outsourcers, that's something that again I've done it for a long time, but I've probably done it in a more concentrated and focused fashion in the last year or so, and that's been really helpful, again, to have that overview of everybody's availability, where certain projects are, because you have that that it's, the job is created, it's in progress, it's 25% complete, 75% complete, and that helps me as well, again, especially with those larger projects. And the final thing, which was a change for me, was when I became VAT registered, and that, in the UK anyway, I'm not sure about wherever your what way your tax authority works, but if you're VAT registered in the UK, you need to submit quarterly VAT returns. So that, for someone who hates expenses and isn't very good with Excel, that was a bit of a nightmare for me. That was pretty difficult. So being able to work with my accountant, who is also really familiar with the tool now as well, I have a better system in place. So I can just literally with one click, okay, 2 clicks, I can download all of my invoices that I've sent out in the past 3 months, and straight away zip them and send them to my accountant. Same with any invoices that I pay to my suppliers. And then I also have a record of all of my expenses as well. They're in one place and I can easily send them to my accountant. And again, the reporting functions are really, they're really keen on the reporting as well, because it gives them visibility and it helps them explain some of their own reports to me, because they compare them to some of the reports that I'm running myself. So I think that has been probably one of the what was unexpected was how the tool would grow with me. I did expect that it was maybe just an admin tool, and I guess I didn't really give enough credit, and that's really been the way that it's helped me. So I'm going to just move on to this slide. So this is a bit of a wrap up slide for the main benefits for me. It did definitely reduce my admin hugely, and I'm saying that as someone who likes to be organised, I like to be organised, but I don't think that I am an inherently organised person. So this has really helped me and simplified a lot of the different systems that I had in place myself. As a result, I've definitely been less stressed, or as you know, less stressed as a person can be who runs their own business. It gives me that clear visibility of my workload, but also my availability. At the very beginning of this webinar, I mentioned to you that I felt like I didn't have a clear idea of whether I could take on new work. When clients would get in touch, or potential clients would get in touch, generally my response was to first of all go yay, but then to just say yes, even if I didn't really know if I could. Then I would either hang up the phone or close the email, and then have a look at all of the deadlines that I had and realize that I probably shouldn't have accepted it. So it's given me that idea of when I can actually slot things in as well. It gives me that much welcome distance when I'm invoicing. That may not be something that is relevant to you at all, and it helps my marketing and sales efforts. So again, that's been something that was unexpected, but has been very welcome. Then the main benefit, though, that I would say, which is probably for newer translators, but then many of us can do with a little bit of a reminder of this as well, is that it allows you to run your business like a business from the start. I always felt before that being able to run reports and having a really organized system, that would mean that I was a grown-up, and being a grown-up would mean that my business would magically be transformed. And actually, although your business transforming is down to you, having those systems in place has definitely helped me, because it allows me to adjust my attitude. It allows me to think of myself as a business owner and act accordingly. I always remember from, I think it was Dagmar and Judy Jenner's book, The Entrepreneurial Linguist, and they had a great quote in it, which I'm panicking, wondering if I'm going to misquote it, but it was along the lines of, if you treat your business like a hobby, you'll be paid like it's a hobby. And that's something that really struck me, and it's stuck with me for so many years, that if you don't treat your business in a professional way, and that includes having systems and strategies in place to manage it, then it will probably be reflected in the business's performance as well. So that's something that I think is a great reminder to everyone, but it's something that I really wish I had known when I started out, because it would have meant that I would have avoided so many mistakes, and I would have really focused on the areas that I needed to, and maybe not wasted time on doing things that weren't profitable and that maybe I didn't enjoy either. I just felt that I should do them, or because I could do them, and that's never really a good enough reason to do something just because you can. So then, just to wrap up the final ones, I just wanted to say thank you for joining me today. And if you need to get in touch, we'll obviously have a little Q&A here as well. So if anyone has any questions, I would be very glad to answer them. But if you do need to get in touch, if you don't think of your question right now, or you have any other question that you have, please just don't hesitate to email me, jo@jorourke.co.uk, and my website is there as well. So I'm going to hand back over to Janae, and hopefully we have a couple of questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jo. And just to everybody, just so you know, I will go ahead and throw out her email address and her website, if that's okay with you, Jo, in the follow-up emails, so that people have that information along with your Instagram as well.
Oh, yeah. Instagram. Cool. I'm a huge Instagram person.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen it's pretty rapidly growing. Good for you.
Thank you.
Cool. So we do have several questions in the Q&A box already. Guys, if you're thinking of your questions, please go ahead and throw those in the Q&A box, and we will go in order here. So the first question is, how did it work when transferring all your invoices from the previous platform into this one? Did it export easily? Did you have to manually do it? Or did you just keep your previous invoices in another platform and start from where you left off on this one?
The latter. What I did was when I left the cancelled the accounting software, the accounting tool that I had been using, I just downloaded all of the information there. If you are transferring from another system, you can also upload details as well. I would probably need to check that, and that might be a question for Lsp Expert to see what can be transferred across. But yeah, I just made a line in the sand, and I decided that I was going to use the platform from now on. So I did manually enter some details, but then the rest of the invoices I just kept because I knew I would obviously need them for accounting purposes.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did when I moved platforms too, is I just sort of downloaded as many reports and information and whatnot as I possibly could to keep for previous. And also
I would definitely sort of remind people to do that, because I have had some friends who forgot to do that and then realized that they needed some past information and they no longer had access to that old platform that they used. So that's just a word of warning. Yeah. And it's always good to start at the beginning of like a quarter if you live in a country that has quarterly taxes, or the year. You know, we're coming up on the end of the year, so. Yeah.
Next question was, what was the accounting software you were using before?
I used Cashflow, which is KASHFLOW.com. But I think that is a more UK focused software, but I have also used Xero, which is XERO.com. But a lot of people are such huge fans of Xero, but I did not get along well with it at all. I think it's just a really personal thing, and it wasn't the tool for me.
Awesome. So what are your thoughts on using Lsp Expert along with an accounting system as well? I don't think I could drop my accounting program.
It would be, it's a really personal thing. I found that for everything that I needed, Lsp Expert gave me it, which is why I made the decision to just move and have Lsp Expert as my one tool. But if for example you have really complex tax issues, maybe a more specialist software might be better. Another reason actually that I guess I didn't think of was I just use suppliers and outsourcers, but if you actually employ staff and have payroll, perhaps you would need specialized accounting software for that. I'm not sure. Again, I'm clearly not an accountancy expert. But for me, it's been great because it also gives me visibility, for example, on what tax I can expect to pay, and I can keep track of that in advance because of the reporting. So for me, it works, but again, it's totally up to you.
And then somebody's wanting to see the actual software itself and asking whether it integrates with QuickBooks. I'm guessing that's going to be really difficult for you to show, considering it probably has proprietary. I mean, you're.
Yeah.
Do you know if it has a free trial at all?
Yeah, there's a free trial. That's why I started using it. I think that you get a free trial for 30 days, and it's it's a totally no strings attached. I don't think you have to even enter any credit card information or bank details. You can try it completely for free for 30 days and see if you like it. It's not a limited trial. You get access to everything. It's not like, you click on a really, really cool function and it's like, no, sorry, you have to pay $1 million to get that. You don't have that. So try it out. Just go to the website and click on the free trial and you're good to go.
So, and it's a subscription then, right?
It's a subscription, yeah. It's I think they have a monthly and an annual subscription, but they'll contact you before your free trial is up, I think, just to see if you want to carry on or not.
And then the question, does it integrate with QuickBooks? I'm guessing not, since it's kind of too standalone.
I don't think so, but I would say no, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. Anne wants to know, would you add all existing clients, et cetera, from the very beginning or as you go?
I added them as I went. And also, Anne, I did use it as the opportunity to have a little bit of a client cull and sort of decided that if it was a client that I hadn't heard, I did transfer some of my clients that I was working with on an ongoing basis, obviously, or all of them. But if it was someone I hadn't heard of, and I did one random project for them in 2011, then I didn't add them. They didn't make the cut. Also, if it was a client that I was maybe looking for an excuse to move away from, then I used that as my chance to cut my ties.
Awesome. Do you measure your productivity in detail, and are you able to tell which projects are most profitable?
Yes, and yes. I do that, and you can do that. So you can, with LSP Expert, you can also track your time on certain projects as well. But equally, if you use other tracking software, you could just use that. But I make sure that I make a note. With some of, I mentioned before that I do a lot of different services, but also I charge in different ways as well, depending on the client. Some of my clients, it is time-based, not very many of them, but for some of them, it is time-based, in which case it is very important for me to know, because I will be billing them on that basis. Or if they have a certain allocation of time for me, I need to know that I'm not exceeding that, or I need to be able to let them know that I'm about to exceed it so that they can say yes or no for me to proceed. I find the reports that show me what are my most profitable services are the most useful ones, because it allows me to then plan for the future and decide which things I'm going to prioritize.
Awesome. Thank you. Excuse me. Could you elaborate a bit on how you use LSP Expert as a CRM, customer relationship management tool? Do you use it to enter and follow up on potential clients, or do you use other tools for that?
I use it to enter all of their details, record all of the information, conversations, email threads that I have with them, and then writing myself reminders to when I need to follow up with them, some, say big events that they may have on, or potential projects for the future. That's the way I use it.
And then Marguerite wants to know, I didn't understand how LSP Expert facilitates your marketing efforts. And one kind of follow-up thing I wanted to ask on the same level is, I know HubSpot, for example, can tell like if somebody saw your Instagram and that's how they ended up becoming a lead. Does LSP Expert integrate with anything like that or have any of those sorts of tools? Or is it really basically like what you enter, like your notes and so on?
It's my notes, and that's how I use it. I'm a prolific note taker, so it required a slight change for me in that I am usually to be found with a pen and a notebook making those notes, but I just have, I guess, trained myself to make those notes on the system instead, and hold everything centrally. I also make records of, I add a new client even when it's a prospect. For example, if they got in touch with me with a potential project, or it's just the start of a conversation with someone that I would like to collaborate with, I just make sure that I record it all on LSP Expert.
Awesome. Okay. Could you give more information about your client rating system or where to read more about it? Like, do you have a blog post about it or anything like that?
I wonder if I do. I probably do. Can I, I'll email you, Janae, if I find that. And if I don't, I can put a one-pager together and send it out to anybody who wants to know. But in a nutshell, it's on 4 different categories. So I rate them on relationship, so what type of relationship I have with them. Do we get along well, or our communication styles, are they aligned? Do they treat me with respect? Do we have a casual or informal sort of style, or is it all business? The next one I look at is reliability. So are they a reliable client for me? So the obvious one there that everyone thinks of is, do they pay on time? But also, can I rely on them for work? Whether or not that is you're relying on them for work at a particular time during the year, or they're, for example, a monthly retainer client. I have a lot of retainer clients, and I'm judging the reliability there. The next one is remuneration. So do they pay me what I want to be paid? But also to remuneration for them, in that, are they getting a return on investment on the work that I do for them? So is that achieving results? And again, I always get asked this as a follow-up question: how do you know that? Well, you talk to them. You don't find out what clients think about you unless, one, something has gone horribly wrong, or generally you ask them, well, how am I doing? That's something that I would recommend. And the 4th thing is reward. Is the work rewarding in a sense of, does it fulfill you? Do you feel really, lit up and excited when they drop into your inbox on a Monday morning? So it's over those 4 areas: relationship, reliability, reward, or remuneration and reward. And that's how I judge whether or not I like to work with people or not.
Nice. And if you guys are not already scoring your clients, even if you just do a very simple, like, do I like them? Do I not like them on a scale of 1 to 5? It's a really good idea to keep a record of that.
It's quite an eye opener too, as well, sometimes, because you don't always think of that. When things are just rolling in and carrying on in the day to day, you sometimes don't give time to yourself to think, do I really like working with this person or not?
Yeah. And I'll also mention, like, if, as somebody who also works for a lot of agencies, if you have specific teams or specific project managers, you can rate them individually too, so that, like, if they need something from you, you kind of have an idea of whether or not it's worth your time to help them out, Okay. Do you store your files that go with the projects within LSP Expert, or how do you have a connection between the projects in LSP and the actual files on your computer?
I don't store the files on LSP Expert. I believe you can. I think you can. I hope I'm not saying the wrong thing. I will find out. But mostly I use Google Drive. Some of my clients like Dropbox have an external hard drive, which I back up to. and that's how I store all of my files. I haven't explored whether or not I could upload relevant ones to LSP. I haven't done that yet.
Okay. And then let's see. Okay, so Kit's throwing out in the chat, yes, you can upload from Dropbox, Google Drive, and your hard drive.
Thank you.
Let's see. I get paid in US dollars from my US customers and Canadian dollars for my Canadian dollars for my Canadian dollars. Does it do the conversion at the end of the year for taxes?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, the reports, you can see quite a lot on reports for actually, first of all, on your invoices, you can see it in the currency that you're charging in, and you can also see it in your own currency as well. And there are also reports that you can do on exchange rates, like your gains and losses as well. So there's quite a lot that you can do, and you can assign when you're entering your clients. You can also apply their currency to them as well. So you don't have to chop and change. It will automatically be remembered every time that you set up an invoice, which currency you're charging for that client. As for tax purposes, I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Do you send clients invoices within the system, or do you create a PDF and then send an email?
I send it within the system. Again, because like I said in the presentation, I'm a total wimp. So I kind of like to have that email that looks a little bit automated. So I have a whole load of templates for my invoices, especially if I have to chase invoices or chase a payment. And I have those to put on my emails that I send directly from Lsp Expert. Or if I'm having a particularly wimpy day, then my assistant Ellie sends out the invoices for me, and she does it directly from the tool.
Awesome. And I think we have one more question, which is, did you just keep files of old invoices? How does LSP calculate profits and expenses through LSPs for the year through LSP Expert for the year if everything was not transferred to the new platform? So if you're switching platforms.
I see what you mean. So when you're switching, I think you can run obviously the system needs the data to be able to run those reports, but you can break it down per quarter. So for example, that's how, when I started off using it, that's what I did. I just sort of viewed it per quarter to see what my sort of profit and loss was, and looking at those reports. So unfortunately at the beginning, you're going to be looking at it in a shorter time frame, unless I suppose you could retrospectively do everything. So you could upload jobs in the past, but I don't know how that would work with invoicing. Like I said, my only experience is to draw a line in the sand, make the change, and then go forward from there. So I'm afraid I don't have any advice on if you want to upload things from the past.
Yeah, Kit in the chat saying, I did that for 4 years. It's a lot of work. That's impressive that you actually managed this.
You are a hero.
You're like my hero. I would never do that.
Whoa. We must be there for days.
She's an OCD for the win. Yeah, I mean, I did it for like 3 months because I switched like toward the end of 1 year. So I don't remember. They're like too far into the year. And I was like, well, I want the whole year. So, I went back and did it. And also for anybody who's interested in having a virtual assistant, that is kind of something you can have someone like that do, as long as you can go back and check the work, like just hear all the invoices, like go enter them if you feel like that's a really good use of their time. But all right, well, thank you very much, Jo. That was our last question. Thank you again for being here. We will send out the replay today, hopefully within the next hour or so. So if you don't get the replay and you don't get that follow-up email with Jo's information, please do shoot me an email. And I will post in my Facebook group as soon as I have sent that out. So if you see that post come up and you're like, I don't have anything, please feel free to shoot me an email then too. That is the link that I just threw out in the chat box to my Facebook group, where you will see it posted that I have sent it out. And once again, Jo, thank you so much for hanging out with us here today. And I think it was really interesting. I thought it was really interesting to see how you use the different pieces.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here, and thanks everyone for coming along.
Awesome. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.